My stepfather told me I wasn't worth keeping alive, then my mom backed him and my entire life split in half that night. Reddit stories. Getting beaten while she watched wasn't even the deepest cut. It was realizing she chose him over her own sick child. But when they kicked me out and stole my father's money, they never expected I'd come back stronger, with the law on my side. Hi, I'm Dawson, 27, and the night my stepdad told me, "You're not worth keeping alive," wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was my mom standing behind him, arms crossed, staring at the floor like maybe if she didn't make eye contact, she wouldn't have to admit she agreed. That was the moment something in me snapped clean in half. Not loud, not dramatic, more like a quiet internal click, the kind that tells you nothing will ever go back to the way it was. I grew up with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is just a fancy medical way of saying my immune system has beef with my thyroid for no reason. It's manageable. Daily meds, regular labs, nothing wild, but skip a few doses and I fall apart like a bargain bin IKEA table. My real dad always handled the bills, the doctors, the late-night pharmacy runs. He'd come home from his job as a construction foreman, dust still in his hair, and ask if I'd taken my pills before he even took off his boots. To him, my illness was just something we worked around, like weather or traffic. Then at 7 years old I lost him. A red light runner T-boned his truck, and that was it. No warning. No goodbye. Mom fell into a fog for months, barely spoke, barely ate, existed like a screensaver nobody remembered to shut off. And I learned to live quietly, to not need too much, to not be one more thing she had to carry. Life insurance kept us afloat. Dad made sure of that. For years I thought that money was being used the way he intended, to keep me healthy, to keep the roof over our heads, to keep us moving forward. But that was before Sterling showed up. Before the fake dominance handshake he gave me at 11. Before he slid into our lives like a termite infestation wearing cologne. Before he started rooting through Dad's legacy like it was spare change in a vending machine. He brought his daughter Maris, 9 years old, princess of entitlement, allergic to anything that wasn't brand new. Mom fell for both of them instantly. Suddenly she was doing her hair again, laughing too loud, making Sterling's favorite dinners. And 6 months later, they were married in the least romantic city hall ceremony of all time. That's when the walls started closing in. My room got reassigned to Princess Maris. Dad's tools vanished until I found them dumped by the curb. Sterling took over the finances, gave Mom an allowance like she was his teenager, not his wife. And then the bills stopped getting paid on time, specifically my medical ones. It didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like someone turning down the oxygen in the room until you realize you can't breathe. But everything truly exploded the night Sterling forgot my medication for the 3rd day in a row and I finally said something back. The night he hit me. The night Mom watched. The night they kicked me out of the house my real father built. And the night I decided, quietly, fully, permanently, that if they wanted to throw me away, I'd make sure they regretted it. Sterling always picked his moments, usually when Mom wasn't home or when Maris was hovering nearby like a human security camera. But that Tuesday night, everything lined up perfectly, Mom working late, Maris glued to her phone on the couch, and me 3 days deep into medication withdrawal. I felt like my bones had been stuffed with wet sand. My thoughts were slow, my joints were screaming, and my brain fog was so thick I could have gotten lost in my own kitchen. I asked him, politely, for a ride to the pharmacy. He didn't even turn around. Just kept building his sad little sandwich like he was starring in a commercial for men who shouldn't be in charge of anything. Not tonight, Dawson. I'm tired. It's 10 minutes. Figure it out yourself. Normally that was where I shut up, swallowed it, and reminded myself that in a few months I'd be 18 and free. But brain fog Dawson wasn't known for good decision-making, and sick, worn-down Dawson was fresh out of patience. You've been forgetting my prescriptions a lot, I said. It's not an accident anymore. He turned slowly, like a villain in a low-budget movie, and gave me the speech I'd heard variations of for years. I was entitled. Ungrateful. A financial drain. A walking bill. You think the world owes you something because you got dealt a bad hand, he said. Nobody owes you anything. My dad didn't owe me anything either, I snapped. He took care of me because that's what a real father does. That was the moment his face changed, like someone hit a dimmer switch and turned off the little humanity he had. He stepped toward me, jaw clenched, and I realized I'd crossed some invisible line Sterling had drawn years ago. My dad was twice the man you are, I said. And you're living in the house he paid for. That did it. His hand came out of nowhere, a backhand that cracked across my cheek so hard my vision flashed white. Before I could recover, he punched me in the ribs, the kind of hit thrown by a guy who's been looking for an excuse for years. I tried to fight back. I really did. But it was like trying to brawl underwater. He slammed me into the fridge. Into the floor. His boot connected with my side. I heard something crack. I couldn't breathe. And through all of it, Maris stood in the doorway just watching, not screaming, not running for help. Just observing like she'd stumbled onto her favorite TV drama. There wasn't horror in her face. There was curiosity. That moment, that expression, burned into me deeper than the bruises. Then Mom walked in. Grocery bags in hand. Eyes wide. And instead of rushing to me, she looked at him first. What happened? She asked, voice stiff. He disrespected me, Sterling said. Disrespected this family. Mom stared at the floor. At me. At the floor again. You're grounded, she said. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I was bleeding, probably had a broken rib, and she grounded me. Like I'd missed curfew. You're kicking me out, aren't you? I said. She didn't answer. Sterling did. Pack your things. You're gone. They meant it. They were really doing it. And my mom, my mother, was letting it happen. So I packed. One duffel. One backpack. My laptop, my clothes, the photos of Dad I'd hidden years ago. Sterling watched me the whole time like I might try to steal the walls on my way out. I walked out the door without saying goodbye. 6 blocks to the gas station. A curb. A buzzing streetlight. A duffel bag. And the number of the only person left in my life who'd ever actually meant it when he said, "Call me if you need anything." My Uncle Vaughn answered on the second ring. "Where are you, kid?" I told him. "Stay put," he said. "I'm coming." And in that moment, bloody, shaking, homeless at 17, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Uncle Vaughn pulled into the gas station like a man arriving at a battlefield, engine roaring, headlights slicing through the dark, jaw set so tight it could have cracked a walnut. He took one look at me, split lip, swelling cheek, shivering under the buzzing fluorescent light, and his expression went quiet. Not angry quiet. The dangerous quiet of someone who's spent years learning how to lock fury behind his ribs until the right moment. "Get in the truck," he said. "We're going to the hospital." "I'm fine," I lied, because that's what kids who grew up in bad households learn to say before they learn multiplication. "You're not fine. And we're getting this documented." He wasn't asking. The ER was half empty, the usual Tuesday night crowd, one drunk guy apologizing to a vending machine, a toddler blowing bubbles, an elderly couple arguing about who had worse knees. The triage nurse took one look at me and fast-tracked us like I'd arrived with a knife sticking out of my head. X-rays. Blood pressure checks. A doctor with the calm, unshakable energy of someone who's seen every possible form of family disaster. "Do you feel safe at home?" she asked. "No," I said, and the word came out too fast, like it had been waiting years for permission. She documented everything, every bruise, every laceration, the fractured rib, the gaps in my prescription refills. I didn't even have to explain the medical neglect part. The printouts did that for me. "I have to file a report," she said. "Because you're a minor. And because this is abuse." For the first time that night, something clicked in my brain. This wasn't normal. This wasn't. Tough love. This wasn't discipline. This was a crime. By the time they discharged me, a detective was waiting. Older guy, mustache, the kind of calm voice that made you feel like things might actually turn out okay. He pulled out a small recorder. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. The years of Sterling. Forgetting. My medication. The comments about me being a financial drain. The way he funneled my dad's life insurance money into Maris's cheer uniforms. The fights. The threats. The shove. The punch. The kick. The part where Mom watched and did nothing. Then I showed him the receipts, the text messages I'd saved, the pharmacy printouts proving my prescriptions were routinely left unfilled, the gaps in care. He took pictures of everything. "This is strong," he said. "We can move on this." And he did. At 2 a.m, a judge signed the warrant. At 3, police dragged Sterling out of my father's house in handcuffs while Mom screamed on the porch. The next afternoon, she bailed him out. $50,000. Cash. Money she claimed for years she didn't have. Money my father had left for me. And that, right there, that was the turning point. The moment the axis of my whole life shifted. The moment I realized I wasn't the powerless kid in their house anymore. If my mother wanted to empty the inheritance meant to keep me alive? Fine. I'd take it back. Every single penny. And I'd do it legally, publicly, and loudly enough that the whole town would hear it echo. 7 hours after Mom bailed out the man who broke my ribs, my uncle sat across from me at his kitchen table and said, "You know you can sue her for that, right?" And I smiled through bruised teeth because for the first time since Dad died, I had options. We found a lawyer the next morning, a local guy with a permanently wrinkled suit and the kind of tired eyes that said he'd seen every flavor of family disaster and stopped being surprised sometime around 1998. He listened to my whole story without interrupting, and when I finished, he tapped his pen twice, leaned back in his creaky office chair, and said, "Oh, she's cooked. Not might be cooked. Not possibly liable. Just cooked. Like Thanksgiving turkey left in the oven too long cooked." See, Dad's life insurance policy wasn't vague. It wasn't, "Use this however you feel." It spelled it out in painfully clear legal wording. The money was for my care, my medical needs, my support until adulthood. Mom was allowed to manage it as the surviving parent, but she was not allowed to hand it to her new husband like a participation trophy. And she definitely wasn't allowed to use it to bail him out of jail for assaulting me. The lawyer gathered the evidence, pharmacy records, financial transfers, the ER documentation, my statement, the arrest report. Then he made a timeline, one so detailed it might as well have come with background music. It showed exactly how Mom and Sterling had siphoned off my inheritance over the years. Maris's cheer fees. Sterling's car payments. Sterling's debts. Family vacations I never got to go on. Random withdrawals labeled household, which was generous considering nothing in that house ever benefited me. And then the big one. The day she pulled $50,000 to bail out the man who broke my ribs. "That money was for you," the lawyer said. "Not for them. This is textbook misappropriation of fiduciary funds. We're suing for the full amount plus interest and fees." It felt almost too big to process. For years, that money had been a ghost, something Mom claimed was gone, used, we had no choice. Suddenly it wasn't a ghost. It was evidence. It was leverage. It was justice with a calculator. We filed the lawsuit on a Friday. Mom showed up at my uncle's house Saturday morning. She didn't knock, she stormed, marching up the driveway like a woman arriving to collect a child she forgot she abandoned 9 years ago. She was crying before she even reached the porch, which would have been touching if it wasn't the same brand of weaponized crying she'd used on dentists' office managers for late cancellations. "How dare you sue me!" she shrieked. Uncle Vaughn stepped outside first, solid as a brick wall in a flannel shirt. "Grace," he said. "Leave. I need to talk to my son." He doesn't want to talk to you. I stepped onto the porch. Pretty sure he's right, I said. Her mascara was already running, making her look like a raccoon who'd had a very emotional night. I did everything for you, she sobbed. Everything. And this is how you repay me? You used Dad's life insurance to bail out the man who broke my ribs. I made sacrifices. You made choices, I said. Sacrifices are when you give something up for someone else. Choices are when you give something up for Sterling. She pointed a trembling finger at me. You'll lose. That money is gone. You'll never see a penny of it. That's fine, I said. The judge will see where it went. This is your father's house. He left it to me to keep the family safe. And look at you, I said. You're defending the guy who beat your kid and spent the inheritance on his daughter's cheerleading bows. Real fortress of safety there. Her face twisted. You're just like your father. Stubborn. Selfish. If I'm anything like him, I said, that's the best compliment you've ever given me. Her voice cracked. I am your mother. No, I said calmly. You're the woman who raised me. My mother stopped existing the second she let that man hurt me. She froze. Then she turned, walked down the steps, got into her car, and drove off without another word. The next months were a slow-motion court battle that felt like watching karma learn how to moonwalk. Everything they tried to bury, every lie, every forgotten bill, every transfer, came up in court like a zombie clawing out of the ground. The judge didn't even try to hide her annoyance. You used inheritance funds meant for a medically vulnerable minor, she said, to bail out the man who assaulted him. Mom's lawyer muttered something about family expenses. The judge shut it down in 2 words. Absolutely not. When the ruling came, it was decisive. She owed me the full policy amount, plus interest, plus attorney fees, plus penalties. Total? Enough zeros to give Sterling a panic attack. And because she didn't have it, the court placed a lien on the house. Dad's house. The one Sterling strutted around like he owned it. The one Maris redecorated like a Pinterest board. The one Mom claimed belonged to the family. Now the bank owned it until they paid me back. Spoiler, they couldn't. And that was how, slowly but beautifully, everything they'd built on the back of my father's money started to collapse. We found a lawyer the next morning, a local guy with a permanently wrinkled suit and the kind of tired eyes that said he'd seen every flavor of family disaster and stopped being surprised sometime around 1998. He listened to my whole story without interrupting, and when I finished, he tapped his pen twice, leaned back in his creaky office chair, and said, "Oh, she's cooked. Not might be cooked. Not possibly liable. Just cooked. Like Thanksgiving turkey left in the oven too long cooked." See, Dad's life insurance policy wasn't vague. It wasn't, "Use this however you feel." It spelled it out in painfully clear legal wording. The money was for my care, my medical needs, my support until adulthood. Mom was allowed to manage it as the surviving parent, but she was not allowed to hand it to her new husband like a participation trophy. And she definitely wasn't allowed to use it to bail him out of jail for assaulting me. The lawyer gathered the evidence: pharmacy records, financial transfers, the ER documentation, my statement, the arrest report. Then he made a timeline, one so detailed it might as well have come with background music. It showed exactly how Mom and Sterling had siphoned off my inheritance over the years. Maris's cheer fees. Sterling's car payments. Sterling's debts. Family vacations I never got to go on. Random withdrawals labeled household, which was generous considering nothing in that house ever benefited me. And then the big one, the day she pulled $50,000 to bail out the man who broke my ribs. "That money was for you," the lawyer said. "Not for them. This is textbook misappropriation of fiduciary funds. We're suing for the full amount plus interest and fees." It felt almost too big to process. For years, that money had been a ghost, something Mom claimed was Gone, used, we had no choice. Suddenly it wasn't a ghost. It was evidence. It was leverage. It was justice with a calculator. We filed the lawsuit on a Friday. Mom showed up at my uncle's house Saturday morning. She didn't knock, she stormed, marching up the driveway like a woman arriving to collect a child she forgot she abandoned 9 years ago. She was crying before she even reached the porch, which would have been touching if it wasn't the same brand of weaponized crying she'd used on dentists' office managers for late cancellations. "How dare you sue me!" she shrieked. Uncle Vaughn stepped outside first, solid as a brick wall in a flannel shirt. "Grace," he said, "leave. I need to talk to my son. He doesn't want to talk to you." I stepped onto the porch. "Pretty sure he's right," I said. Her mascara was already running, making her look like a raccoon who'd had a very emotional night. "I did everything for you," she sobbed. "Everything. And this is how you repay me? You used Dad's life insurance to bail out the man who broke my ribs. I made sacrifices. You made choices," I said. "Sacrifices are when you give something up for someone else. Choices are when you give something up for Sterling." She pointed a trembling finger at me. "You'll lose. That money is gone. You'll never see a penny of it." "That's fine," I said. "The judge will see where it went. This is your father's house. He left it to me to keep the family safe. And look at you," I said. "You're defending the guy who beat your kid and spent the inheritance on his daughter's cheerleading bows. Real fortress of safety there." Her face twisted. "You're just like your father. Stubborn. Selfish. If I'm anything like him," I said, "that's the best compliment you've ever given me." Her voice cracked. "I am your mother." "No," I said calmly. "You're the woman who raised me. My mother stopped existing the second she let that man hurt me." She froze. Then she turned, walked down the steps, got into her car, and drove off without another word. The next months were a slow-motion court battle that felt like watching karma learn how to moonwalk. Everything they tried to bury, every lie, every forgotten bill, every transfer, came up in court like a zombie clawing out of the ground. The judge didn't even try to hide her annoyance. "You used inheritance funds meant for a medically vulnerable minor," she said, "to bail out the man who assaulted him." Mom's lawyer muttered something about family expenses. The judge shut it down in 2 words. "Absolutely not." When the ruling came, it was decisive. She owed me the full policy amount, plus interest, plus attorney fees, plus penalties. Total? Enough zeros to give Sterling a panic attack. And because she didn't have it, the court placed a lien on the house. Dad's house. The one Sterling strutted around like he owned it. The one Maris redecorated like a Pinterest board. The one Mom claimed belonged to the family. Now the bank owned it until they paid me back. Spoiler, they couldn't. And that was how, slowly but beautifully, everything they'd built on the back of my father's money started to collapse. The house went on the market in late spring. A big, bright for sale sign sprouted in the front yard like a karmic daisy. 3 weeks later, someone slapped a fat red sold sticker across it. I didn't know whether to laugh or send it a thank you card. Uncle Vaughn suggested we drive by on moving day. "Closure," he said. I wasn't sure if I wanted closure or popcorn, but I went anyway. When we pulled up, a U-Haul sat in the driveway like a defeated elephant. Mom and Sterling were loading boxes, slowly, resentfully, like gravity had personally wronged them. Sterling looked like someone who'd aged 15 years and 6 months. Mom looked smaller. Not physically, just worn down, like the world had gone 10 rounds with her and stopped pulling punches. Sterling spotted me first. He froze mid-lift, a box dangling in his hands. For a second, I thought he'd march over and try to reclaim one last scrap of dominance. But then his shoulders sagged. He set the box down. He looked away. He knew he'd lost. Mom saw me next. She started toward the truck, hands shaking, lips pressed tight like she was holding in 1,000 things she had no right to say. Vaughn shook his head at her through the windshield. She stopped. Just froze. Like a glitch in human form. I stepped out of the truck. We looked at each other, the woman who birthed me and the boy she betrayed, and I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No satisfaction. Just a hollow quiet, like someone had unplugged the last wire connecting us. You done? Vaughn asked. Yeah, I said. I'm done. We drove away while Sterling and Mom stood in the yard of the house my father bought, preparing to hand over the keys to strangers. Karma wasn't fast, but wow, she was thorough. And life kept dealing them punches. Mom's job turned into a social minefield. Word gets around in a small town, especially when an arrest record becomes public and suddenly everyone notices the bruises on the receptionist's son from last year's school photos. Her coworkers stopped talking when she entered rooms. Patients whispered. Supervisors cut her hours. For budget reasons. Which was corporate for. Your drama is bad for business. Sterling didn't fare better. He lost his job after the arrest. Apparently corporations don't love having assaulted a minor pop up when clients Google their employees. His reputation tanked. His savings dried up. Bills piled up. And because pride tastes terrible, he refused low-wage jobs until he had no choice. Then there was Maris. Oh, Maris. The princess of cheer bows and unlimited allowances. Turns out the real world did not applaud her the way high school did. By 24 she'd had 3 kids with 3 different fathers, collecting 0 child support and maximum chaos. She moved back home with her parents, who suddenly found themselves raising grandchildren they didn't have the money, space, or emotional bandwidth for. She took a part-time retail job, spent her paycheck on nails and clothes, and complained about being drained. Meanwhile apparently the burden, the waste of resources, the unworthy investment, was stationed in North Carolina, getting promoted, saving money, earning respect, and building a life that didn't revolve around anyone's disappointment. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. And I didn't think about them at all. Not until the first voicemail came. Not until Mom said the words, "We need your help." And that was when I realized they hadn't hit rock bottom yet. But they were getting close. And they expected me, the kid they threw away, to save them. Spoiler alert, I didn't. The first voicemail came on a quiet Saturday. I just finished morning PT, showered, and was making myself the world's saddest bowl of barracks oatmeal when my phone buzzed. "Dawson, it's Mom. I know it's been a long time. I really need to talk to you. It's important." Delete. A week later, another voicemail. Delete. Then emails. Delete. Spam. Block. I figured she'd eventually give up, the way people do when a vending machine keeps eating their dollar bills. But then Uncle Vaughn called. "Your mother wants your number. You didn't give it to her, right? Kid, give me some credit. I told her I'd pass along the message." "That's it." "What's the message?" "She says it's urgent." That should have been my cue to ignore her forever. But curiosity is a disease, and I must have been overdue for a relapse. So when she called again, I picked up. She answered on the first ring. "Oh my God, Dawson!" "Thank you. Thank you for calling. I didn't think you would. What do you want?" Silence. Then a shaky inhale. "We need money." I actually laughed. Out loud. Like she just told me she was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. "Not my problem. Please just listen. It's bad, Dawson. We're 3 months behind on rent. The car broke down. Sterling lost another job. Maris is struggling, and the children. Not my problem." She tried the anguished mother voice. The one where she breathes too hard and her words wobble like she's underwater. "I'm still your mother. We're family." "No," I said. Family doesn't let a man beat their kid and then bail him out with the money meant to keep that kid alive. Maris is not my responsibility. She's a single mother. She needs help. Maybe she should have used contraception instead of cheer bows. Again, not my responsibility. She's trying her best. Great. She can keep doing that. Mom sniffled. Dawson, this isn't about us. It's about the children. They're innocent. So was I. Boom. Silence. You don't understand how hard this has been, she said, voice trembling. We could lose everything. You already did, I said, the second you chose Sterling over me. Then, because every tragic sitcom needs a cameo, Sterling grabbed the phone. Dawson, he said, trying to sound reasonable. We need help. Oh, good, I said. I was hoping to hear from the man who broke my ribs with his work boots. That was years ago. And yet somehow you never apologized. He ignored that. Classic Sterling. You're in the military. You're doing well. You can afford to help. Like you afforded my medication? Oh wait, that's right, you didn't. That situation was different. He snapped. Maris needs support. Then support her, I said. You always said she was the child worth investing in. Sounds like you made a bad investment. You're heartless. He spat. I learned from the best. Your mother gave up everything for you, he said. No, I replied. She gave up me for you. A beat of silence. Then I delivered the final blow. Enjoy poverty, Sterling. I hear it builds character. And I hung up. That night, they called 14 more times. Blocked. Then came the emails. Blocked. Then Mom tried Vaughn again. He said, lose my number. And for the first time since I'd left that house at 17, the power dynamic had flipped. They needed me. And I didn't need them at all. 3 months of radio silence passed, beautiful, peaceful months where the only drama in my life involved the base vending machine stealing my dollar bills. Then one afternoon, during my lunch break, I got a message from an unfamiliar account. It was Maris, the princess of perpetual entitlement herself. She tracked me down through some mutual acquaintance from high school, probably the same kid who still posts inspirational quotes that sound like they were written by a drunk fortune cookie. Her message was long, dramatic. Every sentence limped under the weight of unnecessary emotion. Dawson, I know we haven't talked in forever, but I really need help. Things are so hard. I have 3 kids and no support. My mom and Sterling can't keep up. I'm doing everything I can, but I'm drowning. Please. Anything you can give would help us so much. She even attached a picture of the kids, 3 tiny faces staring into the camera like they'd been bribed with crackers. And yeah, the kids weren't at fault. Kids never are. But adults? Adults make choices. And Maris made hers with the same energy she used to pick cheer uniforms, expensive, impulsive, and with zero thought about the future. I read her whole message. Then I blocked her too. I didn't owe her my money. I didn't owe her my sympathy. I didn't owe her a single damn thing. This is the part of the story where people expect a heartwarming change of direction. Where I soften, grow, evolve, discover forgiveness in the bottom of a coffee mug. But that's not how real life works, especially not mine. Some bridges don't burn accidentally. Some bridges deserve the match. I was done being the family's safety net. I'd spent too many years being the thing they cut corners on. The kid they underfunded. The medical expense they resented. The problem they wished would disappear. Now I had a career. Stability. A future they couldn't take credit for. A life built without them. And they had consequences. Real ones. Meanwhile, my life kept climbing. I re-enlisted with a solid record. Got promoted. Took leadership courses. Built savings. Made friends who didn't see me as a burden. Started finishing my business degree online. For the first time since Dad died, my world wasn't collapsing, it was expanding. The past was a story I'd lived through. The present was a story I was writing. And the future? For the first time ever, it was mine. Months passed. Seasons changed. I didn't hear from Mom, Sterling, or Maris again. Not a whisper. Not a guilt trip. Not a manipulative email from a freshly made burner account. And honestly, it was bliss. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or applause. Peace is quiet. Slow. The kind of silence you don't realize you needed until it finally arrives. Then, one random Wednesday morning, I got a packet in the mail, legal documents forwarded from Vaughn's address. Inside was a notice. A foreclosure. A wage garnishment update. A notification that Mom and Sterling had been evicted from their apartment. And a short, clipped letter from some lawyer I'd never heard of. They have relocated out of state. Current address unknown. They were gone. Not metaphorically. Literally. They'd left town. A family that once shoved me out onto the street now had nowhere to go but away. And I didn't feel triumph. Or pity. Or revenge-fueled adrenaline. Just closure. Clean. Sharp. Final. The kind of ending real life rarely gives you. For a long time, I thought that was the end of it. They'd vanished out of state, and I figured whatever bridge they were burning next was far away from me. Life went quiet again in the best possible way. I kept training recruits, kept knocking out college credits, kept lifting, running, sleeping, repeating. The kind of steady rhythm you don't appreciate until you've lived through chaos. Then, almost a year later, trouble came looking for me again. It started with a call from an unknown number at 6:17 a.m., the kind of hour when calls are either emergencies or scams. I let it ring, figuring it was someone offering me an extended car warranty on a vehicle I didn't even own. They left a voicemail. When I played it, the voice made my stomach drop in that old, rusty way I hadn't felt in years. It was Sterling. "Dawson, it's me. Look, I know you don't have any reason to talk to us. I get that. But something happened. We need to speak with you. It's about your mother." I stared at my phone like it had personally insulted me. The man had broken my ribs. Stolen my inheritance. Treated my illness like an inconvenience. Said I wasn't worth keeping alive. And he wanted me to call him back? I deleted the voicemail. End of chapter. Or so I thought. 3 days later, Vaughn called me. And Vaughn never calls me at lunch unless something is wrong. "You hear from Grace?" he asked. "Absolutely not." He exhaled slowly. "Then you should sit down." I did. "She's in the hospital. Out of state. ICU." I didn't say anything. "Sterling reached out to me," Vaughn went on. "Said they can't afford the care. Said she's a skin for you." That landed like a stone between us. For a second, I wasn't 27 and stable. I was 17 again, standing in a kitchen with broken ribs while my mother stood behind the man who put me there. "What do they want?" I finally asked. "Money," Vaughn said. "What else?" A long silence. "You don't owe them a damn thing," he added, voice low. "But I figured you deserved to know anyway." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. There was a time I'd have dropped everything for her. There was a time I'd have believed this was a chance to fix something broken. But that boy was gone. And in his place was the man who survived them. "What's wrong with her?" I asked. Vaughn hesitated. "Sterling wouldn't say. But if he's reaching out to me? It's bad." I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what I felt. Or whether I was supposed to feel anything at all. I didn't visit her. I thought about it, once, sitting alone on my bunk staring at the wall while Sterling's voicemail replayed in my head like a message from a past life I'd already buried. But every memory of her rushed in behind it, her silence while Sterling punched me, her eyes sliding away when he kicked me, the way she backed him instead of her son. And finally, the moment she used my father's money, my money, to free the man who hurt me. Some debts don't get forgiven. Some wounds stop bleeding but never heal. I didn't owe her anything. Not comfort. Not forgiveness. Not closure wrapped in a bow. So I didn't go. 2 weeks later, Vaughn called me again. This time his voice wasn't careful or weighted, it was simple. "She's gone, kid." I sat down. Not because grief hit me, but because nothing did. No collapse. No cinematic flashbacks. Just silence, clean and cold, like a door closing behind me. "She kept asking for you," he added. "Right up to the end." I nodded even though he couldn't see it. "I'm sorry she suffered," I said. "But I'm not sorry I didn't go." "You shouldn't be," he said. "You saved yourself. That was the right thing." After we hung up, I went for a run. 4 miles in the Carolina heat. Every step felt like reclaiming something stolen. By the time I got back to the barracks, sweat soaked through my shirt and the sun was sinking low, and for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't running from anything. I was running toward my own life. A week later, a small envelope arrived, her death certificate and a note from some administrator stating that no estate remained. No assets. No savings. Nothing left to pass down. It struck me then, not sadness, but irony. They had thrown me out with nothing. I rebuilt myself from nothing. And they died with nothing. But I was still here. Healthy. Employed. Stable. Building a future my father would have been proud of. In the end, I never got revenge. I didn't need to. Life handled that part for me. My victory was simple. I survived them. And I never went back.